Hare Krishna, my friends. Welcome to Bhaktiville. I'm here with Bhakti Mimulus, our tech expert, and you there at home. And these last few chapters, Srila Rupa Goswami has been explaining the various stages and symptoms of ecstatic love for Krishna. Very explicit information. So we stopped midway last week on chapter 30, further features of ecstatic love for Krishna. So now we're on page 261 of the book, or page 298 of the PDF, at the section about thoughtfulness. So let's continue. But before we do, let's offer our obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, who has brought us this wonderful information. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namane. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Panchakalpa Tarubhischa, Kripasindhuvayevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I offer also my respectful obeisances unto the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees and can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls. All right, page 261 of the book, 298 of the PDF. Let me get the right screen here. I hope my mic is okay. Bhakti Mimulus says there were some problems, but it seems to be okay now. All right, get the right page up here. So, thoughtfulness. Oops, there it was, and there it disappeared. Thoughtfulness. In the Vaishaka Mahatmya section of the Padma Purana, a devotee states that though in some of the 18 Puranas, the process of glorifying Lord Vishnu is not mentioned. Hang on, having some technical difficulties here on my computer. All right. The process of glorifying Lord Vishnu is not mentioned, and the glorifying of some of the demigods is offered, and such glorification must be continued for millions of years. For when one studies the Puranas very scrutinizingly, he can see that, ultimately, Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is an instance of ecstatic love developed out of thoughtfulness. In the 10th canto, 68th chapter, 30th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is an account of Rukmini Devi's writing a letter to Krishna, requesting him to kidnap her before her marriage to another person. At that time, the specific attachment of Rukmini for Krishna was expressed by Rukmini as follows, quote, My dear Lord Krishna, your transcendental glories are chanted by great sages who are free from material contamination, and in exchange for such glorification, you are so kind that you freely distribute yourself to such devotees. As one can elevate oneself simply by your grace, so also by your direction alone, one may be lost to all benedictions under the influence of eternal time. Therefore, I have selected your lordship as my husband, brushing aside personalities like Brahma and Indra, not to mention others, end of quote. Rukmini enhanced her love for Krishna simply by thinking of him. This is an instance of thoughtfulness and ecstatic love. Next section is endurance. When a person is fully satisfied due to attaining knowledge, transcending all distress, or achieving the desired goal of life in transcendental devotional service to God, at that time his state of endurance or steady mind is called vritta. At this stage, one is not perturbed by any amount of loss, nor does anything appear to be unachieved by him. According to the opinion of Bharat the learned scholar, when a person is elevated to this state of endurance, he thinks as follows, quote, I do not wish to be a highly posted government servant. I shall be satisfied even if I have to eat food collected by begging. I shall prefer to remain naked, without proper dress or garments. I shall prefer to lie down on the ground, without any mattress. And despite all these disadvantages, I shall refuse to serve anyone, not even the government. End quote. In other words, when one is in ecstatic love with the personality of Godhead, he can endure any kind of disadvantages calculated under the material concept of life. Nanda Maharaj, the father of Krishna, used to think, quote, in my pasturing ground, the goddess of fortune is personally present, and I possess more than 100,000 cows, which loiter here and there. And above all, I have a son like Krishna, who is such a powerful, wonderful worker. Therefore, even though I am a householder, I am feeling so satisfied. End quote. This is an instance of mental endurance resulting from the absence of all distress. In another instance, a devotee says, quote, I am always swimming in the nectarian ocean of the pastimes of the personality of Godhead, and as such, I have no more attraction for religious rituals, economic development, sense gratification, or even the ultimate salvation of merging into the existence of Brahman. End quote. This is an instance of the mind's endurance due to achieving the best thing in the world. The best thing in the world is absorption in Krishna consciousness. Next section is happiness. It is described in the Vishnu Purana that when Akrura came to take Krishna and Balaram to Mathura, just by seeing their faces, he became so cheerful that all over his body there were symptoms of ecstatic love. This state is called happiness. It is stated in the 10th canto, 33rd chapter, 12th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, quote, upon seeing that Krishna's arm was placed on her shoulder, one of the gopis engaged in the rasa dance became so ecstatically happy that she kissed Krishna on his cheek. End quote. This is an instance of feeling happiness because of achieving a desired goal. The next symptom is eagerness. In the 10th canto, 71st chapter, 29th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, quote, when Krishna first came from his kingdom Dwarka to Indraprastha, which is now New Delhi, the young females of the city became so eager to see him that even at night, when they were lying down with their husbands, they could not restrain their eagerness. Even though they were not properly dressed, and although their hair was loose and there were many household duties to perform, they still gave up everything and immediately went into the street to see Krishna. End quote. This is an instance of eagerness, of ecstatic love. In his book Stavavali, Sri Rupa Goswami has prayed for the mercy of Radharani, who was so captivated by the flute vibrations of Krishna that she immediately asked information of his whereabouts from residents in the Vrindavan forest. Upon first seeing Krishna, she was filled with such ecstatic love and pleasure that she began to scratch her ears. The damsels of Braj and Radharani were very expert in talking cunningly. So as soon as they saw Krishna, they began their talking. And Krishna, pretending to go for some flowers for them, immediately left that place and entered into a mountain cave. This is another instance of eager, loving exchanges on the parts of both the gopis and Krishna. When Krishna was fighting with the Kaliya snake by dancing on his heads, Kaliya bit Krishna on the leg. At that time, Garuda became infuriated and began to murmur, quote, Krishna is so powerful that simply by his thundering voice, the wives of Kaliya have had miscarriages. Because my Lord has been insulted by this snake, I wish to immediately devour him, but I cannot do so in the presence of my Lord, because he may become angry with me. End quote. This is an instance of eagerness to act in ecstatic love as a result of dishonor to Krishna. When Shishupal objected to the worship of Krishna in the Rajasuya arena at a sacrifice organized by Maharaj Yudhishthir, Nakula, the younger brother of Arjuna, said, quote, a person who cannot tolerate the worship of Krishna is my enemy and is possessed of a demonic nature. Therefore, I wish to strike my left foot upon his broad head, just to punish him more strongly than the wand of Yamaraj. End quote. And then Nakula began to lament like this, quote, oh, all auspiciousness to Lord Krishna, I am so surprised to see that the condemned descendants of the Kuru dynasty, who so unlawfully occupied the throne of the Kuru kingdom, are at the same time criticizing Krishna with diplomatic devices. Oh, this is intolerable. End quote. This is another instance of eagerness caused by dishonor to Krishna. The next symptom is haughtiness, resulting in dishonorable words. In the Vidagdha Madhava, Putila, a sister-in-law of Radharani, began to criticize Krishna in this way, quote, Krishna, you are standing here, and Radharani, who has just been married to my brother, is also standing here. Now I know both of you very well, so why should I not be very anxious to protect my sister-in-law from your dancing eyes? End quote. This is an instance of dishonorable words used to indirectly criticize Krishna. Similarly, some of the gopis once began to address Krishna with these dishonorable words, quote, my dear Krishna, you are a first-class thief, so please leave this place immediately. We know you love Chandravali more than us, but there is no use in praising her in our presence. Kindly do not contaminate the name of Radharani in this place. End quote. This is another instance of dishonorable words cast upon Krishna in ecstatic love. There is another statement in the 10th canto, 31st chapter, 16th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. When all the gopis came out of their homes to meet Krishna in the Vrindavan forest, Krishna refused to accept them and asked them to go home, giving them some moral instruction. At that time, the gopis began to speak as follows, quote, my dear Krishna, there is extreme distress in being out of your presence, and there is extreme happiness simply in seeing you. Therefore, we have all left our husbands, relatives, brothers, and friends, and have simply come to you, being captivated by the sound of your transcendental flute. O infallible one, you had better know what is the reason for our coming here. In plain words, we are here simply because we've been captivated by the sweet sound of your flute. We are all beautiful girls, excuse me, and you are so foolish that you are rejecting our association. We do not know anyone other than yourself who would miss this opportunity to associate with young girls in the dead of night. End quote. This is another instance of indirect insults used against Krishna in ecstatic love. In the Padyavali, one of the friends of Radharani once addressed her thusly, quote, my dear friend, please do not be too puffed up because Krishna has decorated your forehead with his own hand. It may be that Krishna is yet attracted by some other beautiful girl. I see that the decoration on your forehead is very nicely made, and so it appears that Krishna was not too disturbed in painting it. Otherwise, he could not have painted such exact lines. End quote. This is an instance of indirect dishonor caused by Radha's good fortune. I'm going to mute my mic for a second to cough. Hang on. All right, let's see if that cleared it up. In the 10th canto, 30th chapter, 26th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is the following statement, quote, when the gopis were searching after Krishna and Radha after the rasa dance, they thus began to speak amongst themselves. We've seen the footprints of Krishna and Radha on the ground of Vrindavan, and they are giving us great pain because Krishna is everything to us. But that girl is so cunning that she has taken him away alone and is enjoying his kissing without sharing him with us. End quote. This is another instance of casting dishonorable words against Krishna and Radha, pouting over the good fortune of Srimati Radharani. Envy is the next symptom. Oh, heavens. Sorry about that. Envy is the next symptom. Sometimes when the cowherd boys used to play in the forest of Vrindavan, Krishna would play on one side and Balaram would play on the other. There would be competition and mock fighting between the two parties. And when Krishna's party was defeated by Balaram, the boys would say, quote, if Balaram's party remains victorious, then who in the world can be weaker than ourselves? End quote. This is an instance of envy in ecstatic love. The next symptom is impudence. In the 10th canto, 52nd chapter, 33rd verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Rukmini addresses a letter to Krishna as follows. Quote, my dear unconquerable Krishna, my marriage day is fixed for tomorrow. I request that you come to the city of Vidarbha without advertising yourself. Then have your soldiers and commanders suddenly surround and defeat all the strength of the king of Magadha, and thus by adopting the methods of the demons, please kidnap and marry me. End quote. According to the Vedic system, there are 8 kinds of marriages, out of which one is called Rakshasa Vivaha. Rakshasa Vivaha refers to kidnapping a girl and marrying her by force, and is considered to be a demonic method. When Rukmini was going to be married to Shishupal by the choice of her elder brother, she wrote the above letter to Krishna requesting him to kidnap her. This is an instance of impudence in ecstatic love for Krishna. One of the gopis said, quote, may Krishna's sweet flute be washed away by the waves of the Yamuna and let it fall into the ocean. The sweet sound of that flute is so impudent that it makes us lose all composure before our superiors. End quote. The next symptom is dizziness. Every evening at sunset, Krishna used to return from the pasturing ground where he herded cows. Sometimes when Mother Yashoda could not hear the sweet vibration of his flute, she would become very anxious, and because of this, she would feel dizzy. Thus, dizziness caused by anxiety in ecstatic love for Krishna is also possible. When Yashoda had tied Krishna up one time, she began to think, quote, Krishna's body is so soft and delicate. How could I have tied him with rope? End quote. Thinking this, her brain became puzzled and she felt dizziness. The gopis were advised by their superiors to bolt the doors at night, but they were so carefree that they did not carry out this order very rigidly. Sometimes, by thinking of Krishna, they became so confident of being out of all danger that they would lie down at night in the courtyards of their houses. This is an instance of dizziness in ecstatic love due to natural affection for Krishna. It may be questioned why devotees of Krishna should be attacked by dizziness, which is usually considered a sign of the modes of ignorance. To answer this question, Sri Jiva Goswami has said that the devotees of Lord Krishna are always transcendental to all the modes of material nature. When they feel dizziness or go to sleep, they are not considered to be sleeping under the modes of nature, but are accepted as being in a trance of devotional service. There is an authoritative statement in the Garuda Purana about mystic yogis who are under the direct shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Quote, in all three stages of their consciousness, namely wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep, the devotees are absorbed in the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, in their complete absorption in the thought of Krishna, they do not sleep. The next symptom is alertness. A devotee once stated, quote, I have already conquered the modes of ignorance, and I am now on the platform of transcendental knowledge. Therefore, I shall be engaged only in searching after the Supreme Personality of Godhead. End quote. This is an instance of alertness in ecstatic love. Excuse me. Transcendental alertness is possible when the illusory condition is completely overcome. At that stage, when in contact with any reaction of material elements, such as sound, smell, touch, or taste, the devotee realizes the transcendental presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this condition, the ecstatic symptoms, i.e., standing of the hair on the body, rolling of the eyeballs, and getting up from sleep, are persistently visible. When Srimati Radharani first saw Krishna, she suddenly became conscious of all transcendental happiness, and the functions of her different limbs were stunned. When Lalita, her constant companion, whispered into her ear the holy name of Krishna, Radharani immediately opened her eyes wide. This is an instance of alertness caused by hearing the sound of Krishna's name. One day, in a joking mood, Krishna informed Radharani, my dear Radharani, I'm going to give up your company. Upon saying this, he immediately disappeared, and because of this, Radharani became so afflicted that the hue of her body changed, and she immediately fell down upon the ground of Vrindavan. She had practically stopped breathing, but when she smelled the flavor of the flowers on the ground, she awoke in ecstasy and got up. This is an instance of transcendental alertness caused by smelling. When Krishna was touching the body of one gopi, the gopi began to address her companion thus, quote, my dear friend, whose hand is this touching my body? I had become very afraid after seeing the darkened forest on the bank of the Yamuna, but suddenly the touch of this hand has saved me from hysterical fits. End quote. This is an instance of alertness caused by touching. One of the gopis informed Krishna, quote, my dear Krishna, when you disappeared from the arena of the rasa dance, our most dear friend Radharani immediately fell on the ground and lost consciousness. But after this, when I offered her some of your chewed betel remnants, she immediately returned to consciousness with jubilant symptoms in her body. End quote. This is an instance of alertness caused by tasting. One night, Srimati Radharani was talking in a dream. My dear Krishna, she said, please do not play any more jokes on me. Please stop, and please don't touch my garments either. Otherwise, I shall have to inform the elderly persons, and I shall disclose all of your naughty behavior. End quote. While she was talking like this in a dream, she suddenly awoke and saw some of her superiors standing before her. Thus Radharani became ashamed and bowed her head. This is an instance of alertness after awakening from sleep. Oh, Bhakti Grease is here. Hey, Haribo. All right, keep going. We're on page 305 of the PDF. There is another instance of this. A messenger from Krishna came to Srimati Radharani while she was sleeping, and Radharani immediately awakened. Similarly, when Krishna began to blow on his flute in the night, all of the gopis, the beautiful daughters of the cowherd men, immediately got up from their sleep. There is a very beautiful comparison made in this connection. Quote, the lotus flower is sometimes surrounded by white swans, and sometimes it is surrounded by black wasps who are collecting, lost it, sorry. I lost my page there for a second. Start over. The lotus flower is sometimes surrounded by white swans, and sometimes it is surrounded by black wasps who are collecting its honey. When there is a thundering in the sky, the swans go away, but the black wasps stay to enjoy the lotus flowers. The gopi's sleeping condition is compared to the white swans, and the sound of Krishna's flute is compared to a black wasp. When Krishna's flute sounded, the white swans, which represent the sleeping condition of the gopis, were immediately vanquished. The black wasp's sound of the flute began to enjoy the lotus flower of the gopis' beauty. All right, well, I'm going to stop there because this is the end of this chapter and the beginning of the next one, so we'll stop there. It's a little early. Are there any questions or comments? No? It's Bhaktimimula says, thank you. It's wonderful to hear these. I agree. The examples are really, really quite wonderful and give a lot of depth to Radharani and the gopis' relationship with Krishna. All right, well, we'll continue here next week. Same place, same time. Got that, Grease? Same time, same place. Thank you all for letting me read every Friday. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.